Thank you. Well, I don't have any slides or presentation. I wasn't aware that I had to prepare something, so I'm just gonna have to wing it. So first of all, a few words about who we are. CWP is a renewable energy developer. We've done some of the largest projects in the region, including what was then the largest wind farm in Europe, the 600 megawatt Fantinele Kozilak project in Romania. We did the largest in Serbia. We never successfully managed to get anything built in Bulgaria. Still trying. We also built the largest renewable energy platform in Australia, which we exited a few months ago. So we've been in this space for 17 years now. We currently have about 5,000 megawatts under development in Southeast Europe, in 8 different markets. Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia and Ukraine are the biggest of them, but also the smaller countries of the Western Balkans. We are starting this year construction on 600 megawatts, half wind, half solar, between Romania and Serbia. Again, nothing in Bulgaria yet. And we're also, CWP Global is also the world's, or one of the world's leading green hydrogen developers. We are behind such projects such as the Asian Renewable Energy Hub, which is a 26 gigawatt project in the Western Australian desert to produce green hydrogen and its derivatives out of the world's cheapest green electricity. Right. As of last year, this is now a project that's partially owned and operated by BP. So they I guess, also believed our vision. So they entered the project. We're still a shareholder, but they're now running the show. And we hope to, start construction there in a couple of years. So we cover the whole spectrum, I would say, right? So we do wind, we do solar, we do energy efficiency, we do storage, we do hydrogen, right? So I think, not being a technology company, we are quite, I would say, unbiased in our views. And I'm going to talk about what we see the path forward for decarbonization and cooperation, I guess, because that's the name of the panel. So obviously the world needs to electrify. That's the number one way to decarbonize, right? We need to get smarter in our energy use, so energy efficiency and more flexibility in our energy use, right? We need to, today the world derives about 19% of its primary energy use from electricity. And that's, by 2050, that's projected to go up to 85, right? So massive build out of new capacity is going to be required. And we're going to have to electrify a lot of stuff. Transportation, industry, heating and cooling. Heat pumps, obviously, a great part of that puzzle. But 20% or so is still going to have to come from molecules, right? And those molecules, these are the so-called hard-to-abate sectors. So long-distance shipping, aviation, some industrial processes, a few other things. There isn't any viable, cost-effective technology in sight to decarbonize those with electricity. So that's going to have to come from molecules. And our vision that has to do with green hydrogen is to make those molecules in places that you're never going to be able to use the electricity any other way, right? So we're not subscribers to the idea that Europe should be making hydrogen, right? I personally think this should be made illegal because we need all the green electrons to go into the energy grid, the electricity grid, right? we're so short clean green power. We're so far away. You know, Germany is restarting coal plants, and we're still using lots of coal and gas, right? So, and we're gonna add to that problem because we're gonna electrify transportation, industry, and heating, right? So, for us, it's crazy to be trying to make large amounts of hydrogen gas here when you don't have enough green electricity anyways. So our big idea is let's go to places like the Western Australian desert or North Africa or Namibia or Patagonia. Right? This is where we have large-scale projects. Again, many gigawatts, that kind of scale. And we make the molecules there. And if you look at the Asian Renewable Energy Hub, which is 26 gigawatts, it's going to be the largest power plant on the planet. It's 6,500 square kilometers, so 65 by 100. You're going to need 1,000 of those to make that remaining 15-20%, maybe 2,000, right? So this is why the scale of the challenge is enormous. And I personally don't believe that we're going to be fully carbon-free by 2050. I think that's probably a stupid target as well, right? We need to be at net zero, right? We don't need to be at zero. So I think carbon removal and using some natural gas, actually, for some purposes, probably still makes sense, right? Like it's going to be a very small part of the puzzle, but I think we are seeing carbon removal technologies, mostly nature-based, that have about, I would say, $100 per ton in sight, meaning that you can remove carbon that you emit through using natural gas to balance the grid in extreme events, right? You could remove that at $100. Well, then, sorry to say to Kawasaki, but then you shouldn't be burning hydrogen in turbines, right? That doesn't make economic sense. So that's my ramble, a little bit unstructured because I wasn't prepared for a speech, but happy to get into the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, and very, very interesting ideas and very provocative positions. So I think we can declare the dialogue open. If any question, comments from your part, please make yourself visible to me and to the speakers.
Hello, my name is Yana. I'm here with Montel Energetica, and my question is, why do you think you weren't able to successfully complete any projects in Bulgaria? What were the main challenges? Like you apparently managed with non-EU members, so what is the big problem in Bulgaria? Thanks.
So, in our first kind of big efforts, which was more than 10 years ago, we didn't get there in time, right? So we were a little bit late, and they removed the support legislation before we could build our project. And we were late not because we started late, but because it takes 7 years to develop a wind farm in Bulgaria, or something like that, right?
Much easier in other countries in the region?
Yes. So if you look at the EU averages, right? There are a few countries in Europe that are worse than Bulgaria. Croatia is the number one. It takes 10 years to develop a wind farm there and 7 to develop a solar project. Romania is great. Romania is, I think, 3.5 for wind and 1.5, 2 for solar.
I think it's kind of optimistic, but okay, let's take it for granted.
That's which one you look at.
Yeah.
But if you have a flawed project to begin with, then it's more challenging, right? If there is no grid, if you put it in the wrong place, there are some, but here we have projects that are in the right place with plenty of grid capacity, and, we're still spinning our wheels.
What is the problem? I heard earlier about land permitting, which is a problem in Romania too, which is one of the biggest problems. Why does it take 7 years? Where are the biggest bottlenecks in this process?
So
local authorities, maybe, I don't know. It is a sole problem in Romania.
There isn't a strategic effort by the government to move towards some vision for the energy sector, right? It's, they do it in a piecemeal way, so they don't really have a vision that looks at where we need to be in 10, 15, 20 years and say, okay, so what do we need to do to get there, right? And also what happened in the first wave is that renewables, especially solar, got overbuilt, right? Some wind farms got built where they probably shouldn't have built. And the EU successfully opened the procedure against Bulgaria. And now, and the consequence for the authorities not doing their job was that, there was an infringement procedure, Bulgaria lost, and then the MO became for the authorities is that renewables are the enemy, we need to stop them, right? And they're kind of still trying to shake that approach, I think, to some extent. But yeah, it's mostly administrative burden to get stuff permitted.
Thank you for sharing. I feel like an anonymous alcohol. Okay, other question or comments, please, for the speakers.
That's our ongoing conversation about hydrogen. So, I mean, there are several challenges, obviously, of producing hydrogen where it's not used. First is how to transport it around, and whether ammonia is too toxic to travel around the sea, whether hydrogen is too big to pack it into an LNG ships and all that. But the other thing is that if you have a very large renewable generation in certain regions, so for example, if we start covering coal regions with gigawatts of solar, I mean, already we can see that the generation of solar in this area, in this region, is becoming, is driving prices to zero. And we're far, far away from the full development of solar. So if Bulgaria, for the same reason for which you can't build anything in Bulgaria, there could be huge developments. It sounds absurd, but that's the case, because nobody controls, nobody has a vision. Nobody will stop this development. I mean, everybody is building now. And that means that there will be massive excess of very cheap electricity. Will that not be logical to go into hydrogen production? Not for export, but for local use. I mean, I'm challenging your idea to make it illegal.
Look,
one comment on the Romanian part. Romania was involved, and I think that technically is still involved in the project on the Danube with the hydrogen produced by hydroelectrica, nuclear electrica, with some German companies, to produce hydrogen in the southern part of Romania and transport it through the Danube in the northern part of the continent to be used.
German dream,
which Romania put aside. They said it is not something that we are interested in. And the project is still on the paper, but not functional anymore. I think that it's something on this direction, but please.
Well, there are many ways to waste taxpayer money, right? And EU officials are very creative, but this is an important question, right? A lot of people say we're gonna have so much wind and solar that we're gonna have loads of time when you've got excess electricity, and we can use electrolyzers to absorb that excess and turn it into hydrogen, and then turn the hydrogen into something else, I guess, or use it as an energy source, right? So that argument is at the first glance.
Not turning it back to electricity. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, fair enough. You turn it, you use it as
feedstock, I mean, for everything.
Fair enough.
Part of the molecule decarbonization.
So I can make electricity in Australia for 2 cents, $20. We've chosen our sites and across the world to have the cheapest wind and solar, but also an inversely correlated generation profile. So I get to a 75% capacity factor. So I can take that 2 cent electricity and make hydrogen for under $2, right? Now, if I started with electricity that's lower than 2 cents, right? And turn it into hydrogen, one could assume that it would be cheaper hydrogen. But that's not how the equation works, because if you build $1 billion electrolyzer plant and you only operate it when there's, the sun is shining or when you have excess electricity 4 hours a day, then this underutilization of your downstream is going to turn the hydrogen cost into $3, right? Even if you're starting with free electricity, or maybe 2.5, right? But you're not starting with free electricity because you need to transmit that electricity, right? Unless you collocate, which means you're doing an integrated plant, it doesn't work, right? So the issue with moving hydrogen, you're absolutely right. You can't really move hydrogen. I think that's probably a pipe dream, pardon the pun. We make its derivatives, or we're trying to make its derivatives and move those. And ammonia is already a globally traded commodity. It's 200 million tons a year, about 25 million tons move on ships today. The other thing we're making is green steel, right? Using the hydrogen as a reduction agent for the iron ore to turn it into steel. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have these green industrial hubs where massive amounts of green electricity in remote locations are going to be the most competitive places to make lots of stuff. So I can name a few other industrial processes alumina, for example, right? So I think that idea makes sense, but it's probably more efficient from a systems point of view to build that 2 gigawatts of solar and build a battery and just shift the power to the evening and use it that way, because battery has a 95% round trip efficiency, and you're gonna be short power in the evening, right? So if it's only a 2-3 hour time shift, it's gonna be probably more efficient than, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you for the explanation. And I managed to put here on the screen a slide from a previous event of ours. Last week, I think we have in Bucharest an event dedicated to hydrogen. And this is one slide from one of the speakers representing Horvat, is a company working for the Romanian strategy for hydrogen. It is very supportive for one of your ideas, Dimitar, because here is the price, the share of the energy price in the total price for producing hydrogen. Now it's very large share, and it is expected to remain very high. And I think that we should keep in mind this when discussing about producing hydrogen. So if we manage to find a way to reduce this to 2 cents, or it would make a difference.